And then we learned the crazy formula. Was it 3? No, we know how to sort and filter. Did that yesterday. 4. There's something before that. There it is. VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP. So VLOOKUp is when we have two or more tables that we want to get stuff out of. So maybe this table has categories of A, B, C, and D in here. This one has the F, G, H in here, and this one has classifications of I, J, K, L, M, and N in here. And what you want, maybe IT doesn't have the protocol to make the report you want, and the report you want is you want actually D and H and M. D and H and M. Well, how do you do that? Well, we'll grab D from here, but we have to line up this record with this record. So how do I do that? I have to find a common ground between the two, and between table 1 and table 2, I see that there is a C. So what I'm going to do is match up our VLOOKUP and make sure that they're on the same page, the C's. So this is my common thread between there, the active cell. So that's what I would look up between the two of these. So then I could pull in the H here to line that up nicely. And then between the next two, I had to line up this and this. And I see between these two, 2 and 3, now I see is there a common thread between these two, and I see there's an F here and an F here. So what I do is a VLOOKUP between these two and line those up. So after I do that, then I could extract the M and pull it over. So we have 3 different reports that IT has made. We're just trying to put all those together and integrate all of those together to either extract some things or just pull out some things uniquely like we did yesterday. So with VLOOKUP, there are 4 moving parts that we had on that. So we start formulas with equals VL, and we can hit tab to make it calculate. So equals VL, get the blue there, and we hit tab. Tab makes it complete. Hit the function wizard here after you do that. And that helps you with the wizard. So this app helps you much better. Once you get familiar with this formula, you won't have to go to the function wizard. You can just start typing away in here, and it works. But once you start typing, to move to the next white window, like in here we had to click on each white window to move to the next category. Once you get familiar with that, what you do is you click on the cell and you hit the comma here when you start typing. So the comma, when you move, it'll move to the next argument with commas here. So here you have to manually hit the comma, but here with the wizard, all you have to do is click to the next argument, and that already makes the comma for you. So I'll go to the table array. That's on the next page. You don't have to do a VLOOKUP on the quiz. Just know that VLOOKUP integrates data from multiple worksheets. VLOOKUP here. Come over here. We're just going to grab A through Z on the top there. Makes it easy. Column index number means I'm looking up the ID. The ID is in here, column A. So what VLOOKUP does is it vertically goes down the first column until it finds what we're looking for. Boom, 1003, for instance. If that was our argument, then what VLOOKUP does is activates that row. Boom. And then this column index number tells us from this first column, what column do I want? And it just continually adds it, or not adds it up, it's just sequential. So 1, 2, 3, we just count from the left-hand side over there. And fortunately, we're on Y. We knew pay rate is at Y over here, so that makes it a little easier because we know there are 26 letters in the alphabet and the pay rate is at Y, so 26 minus 1 is 25. And then the last argument when we do VLOOKUP for exactly do what I say is what?
False.
Yep, good job. So exact match, which seems counterintuitive. I would think exact match would be truly go find what I ask you, but that's not the way the coders think. So not exact, false. False on the tail end there. And then boom. So that's our VLOOKUP. When we're trying to find exact things. If we're putting things in groups, this was we went down some rabbit trails here. Got a little confused here. So typically, when things are reported in PDFs or on the website, they would give you ranges here, but Excel can't read that. Excel can't see those numbers, so what we have to do is break that apart, pull off the lower end, and make it into a table, and whatever type of classification, we put that in here. So we just need the lower end, so once it hits the lower end, we achieve that rating. Once it hits 50, we get here. Once it hits 70, we get it here. So this one already did it for us. And the only difference now is we don't exactly find this number in this range. So the only difference here, when we're trying to match up numbers into which group it belongs, what do we change in the VLOOKUP? So we still look up the active cell.
We change it to true. True.
Yep, good job. We changed it to true. True. So we still have the table. And we still want column number 2. And unfortunately, it says approximate match for true in the literature, and in the coding, and all the wording in the background here for true. It is not for an approximate match, right? So 38, which one is it closer to? It's actually closer to 50, approximate. So, but that is not, it's a bad thing on the coders that they said that. It is not for an approximate match. It is for putting numbers into groups, into what categories they are. So you'll see approximate match across the literature there for true. That's not what it does. It just puts numbers into groups there. Because an approximate match of 51 or 49, right, would be 50, because that's the approximate match. And that makes no sense, because 49 actually belongs to the 0 group. So just ignore the approximate match whenever you see that. Just think it's grouping. And here, the second one, it didn't pull off the lower ends. We had to grab it ourselves. So manually, we had to come over here and pull off the lower ends and make that happen. 77,401, 165, 001, 315, 001, 400, 001, 600, 001. And we can now, so those are not numbers, but these are, so we could have linked back to the top here and then copied that down. Those are numbers. But we had to change the literature ranges into actual ranges on that one. So that was a little confusing yesterday. Good job, everybody. Then we went into pivot tables. Pivot tables. We do have to do a pivot table exercise on the quiz. Pretty easy though. Pivot table. Yeah, there it is. So pivot table. All you have to do is be on one cell in your pivot table. And how do we create a pivot table? Where do we go? Which menu item?
Insert.
Insert.
Insert, yes. So we're inserting something new into Excel. So insert just click on the big icon at pivot table, and you'll get a wizard that shows up. Hit OK, and this should be off the edge here when you do it. If not, you can pull it off the edge, open it up. It should open up for you automatically when you do it. And you just enter the question. So what question do you want to ask? We have a bunch of employees here. What would be a good thing to ask? If you are curious about your workforce, give me a question.
How many females live in DC?
How many people are in DC?
How many females?
How many females in DC? Great. So, just like word problems in the SAT. So, how many females are in DC? So, just take it one piece at a time. Just word problems. They freak us out when we took the SAT, but all you have to do is just slow down when you read the problem. So, how many females? Females, stop. So, what is a female? It's a gender, right? So we go to gender, and the first movement would be to put that into rows. See, my rows went to the third bucket for me. It always does that on day 2 when I do pivot tables. I don't know why. Sometimes it's on the bucket 2, sometimes bucket 3. Don't know. And then how many? We're also going to bring that into the math bucket. Boom. So just stop there. Females, count those up right there as is. And then we're good. Then we continue our in DC. So what we can do then is, what is a DC? It's not really a state, but it's in the state category. So what I can do is I can move it to columns now, but then I go horizontal, which is fine. I can see it really quick if I'm doing a quiz. Got it. But not really nice to look at, so I can switch these around, move gender up to columns, and move state down to rows. That way it's more vertical in nature. And here we got female and DC. Oh, we got 2 DCs. Interesting. So why do we have 2 DCs? That is because somebody, you think it looks fine, but actually somebody, I'm guessing, put a space after they typed DC. So DC space and DC without a space, Excel sees them as different. So if I were to say, is this equal to this? You see it's false. So something's going on. My best guess is there's a space in here. So how do I get into a cell to kind of look at it?
F2.
F2.
Yeah, great job. F2. F2 helps us edit the cell. So I'm going to come over here and just take a peek at it and hit F2, and that's fine. And come over here, hit F2. Ooh, look at that. There's a space. There's a space right there. So somebody fat-fingered, or the database, whatever it brought in, messed it up. So it doesn't put those in the same category. So
They messed it up
another way.
2,400
All right.
times. I said
Yeah,
they messed it
exactly.
up 2,400 times.
Exactly. So that's kind of a way, unless you know your data is perfect, if we were go this, there's nothing to trick you on the exam. So nothing like that exists. But if I were to come up here to filters and do the same thing like we mentioned yesterday, I grabbed female and grabbed state, now I have DC listed twice. So what I could do in that case, if I don't want to fix it, is just hit select multiple, unselect everybody, and hit both of those DCs. If I didn't have time to fix anything right now and I just wanted to go grab that, don't worry, nothing tricky like that's on the exam. I would just do that, and that way everything would be captured together. But good. So that's the extent. It's not even that difficult on the exam. It's more count. And then One more thing though. Let's see. I'm gonna move those back, and we'll put unfilter. So it comes in alphabetically in A. So how do I sort? How do I get the biggest or the smallest here? Where would I go to sort column B? How do I sort column B?
You go to data, and then from biggest to smallest, you would do Z to A.
Yeah, great job. So we go up to data, Z to A to Z on that, and that'll quickly put those values that way. That's the extent of the exam, or the problem on the quiz on that. Lots of other cool things pivot tables can do, but I want to just make sure that you guys have had this under your belt. Let's see, and then we jumped into any questions on pivot tables? 33 was 3. That was that. Okay. Then we jumped into 4. 4 introduced us to our cost-benefit analysis. So this is kind of like the foundation now as we're going into not just the Excel tools that we have, but more now into finance and project management on looking at that. And the first thing we're looking at here is the different terms. Benefits are good, costs are bad, right? So benefits, I'm just grabbing the example over here, our scenario. So 200 and 160, net benefit. Net is just a subtraction. So benefit minus cost, net just means subtraction in accounting. So we just subtracted both of those. I'm just leaving off the last 3 zeros because I'm lazy this morning. The ratio, you can see, is a ratio which just means 1 over the other. A fraction, so we take the B benefit over C cost, and we get our ratio. One way to get the ROI here is we subtract 1. And by the way, the quiz is open notes, obviously open in instructor as well, so don't freak out. Ask me if you get stuck. Subtract 1 there, so that's one way. Or I personally like to do my BAME, my benefit, my profit that I get for my investment. So I got $40, I invested 160, I get 25% return on my money. And then we take that and we can use that sort of methodology to compare projects, because they're at work if your boss is looking at different ways to use the money. So where do I put my money first to get the biggest return or benefit from the money that were allocated from Congress? So benefits would be the subtraction between the two. Ratio is 1 over the other. Benefit over cost. And the ROI is our benefit divided by our cost. And then we could take each one of those, we turn that into a percent. And then we could grab all 3 of them at one time. And since there is a column next door, I could grab all 3 of these at one time and double click. And it'll all go down. And then we can see that A is top for all 3 categories. All right, so that was 4. Any questions on that? So that kind of gives us our intro into economics and finance here as we move along.
So, Doug, just one more. So, return on